One Nation is launching its Fire the Liar TV ad set to air tonight during State of Origin. It follows a viral fundraising campaign under the same name that has raked in more than $4 million. Here's a bit of it.
Always been a man of my word.
Well, we have no plans to change negative gearing.
Well, we've changed our position.
I stepped back one step. I didn't fall off the stage. The reception was incredibly positive and not a single person heckled. Reducing power prices by $275.
That's a full-out lie.
My word is my bond.
There it is for their take. Let's bring in Environment Minister Murray Watt and National Senate Leader Bridget McKenzie. Good morning to you both. Oh, Murray, that's got a sting, doesn't it? What's your response to that ad?
No, well, you know, what we just see from One Nation is that they're becoming just like every other political party. Every other political party puts up advertising against their opponents, and One Nation's doing the same thing. But look, I think the bottom line is that Australians can rely on our government to be completely doing everything we can to support them with their cost of living pressures. But you know, in 2 weeks, Australians are going to get another tax cut, which One Nation opposed, along with the Liberals. We're trying to put legislation through the Parliament at the moment to deliver another tax cut on top of that,
okay,
and One
Murray,
Nation are opposing that too.
Back to the point of the ad, where they're calling you, the government, and Anthony Albanese a liar. Do you have a major trust issue now with the Australian people?
No, I think, as I say, Mon, I think what most Australians are most concerned about is how they deal with their cost of living pressures, and we keep demonstrating that that's the thing we're focusing on. We'll let the others sling mud if that's what they want to do. One Nation's got to explain why they're opposing the tax cuts for working Australians that we're trying to provide now, why they opposed those tax cuts that we delivered last year. And why they continue to oppose things like the Medicare urgent care clinics and support for bulk billing that we're providing. They're the kind of things that I think Australians are more focused on than negative advertising. We'll leave that to them. They're
certainly focused on that, but I can tell you in the decades that I've worked on this program, I have never seen the tone, the anger that we get coming in, directed at your government from our text line, from our emails. They're angry and they're worried about the economics, absolutely, but they're angry with you because you lied.
Well, as I say, I mean, I think at the end of the day, what Australians are most focused on is how they're going to pay their bills. And there's only one party in Australian politics at the moment that is actually doing anything to help that. We've got the One Nation party lining up with the Liberals and the Nationals against the tax cuts that we're trying to provide. Just like they opposed the last tax cuts, they've all grouped together to oppose the bulk billing increases that we provided.
$250
they've opposed everything we've done to lift wages. So, you know, how is that going to help people who are watching today to pay their bills?
Okay, Bridget, One Nation capitalising on something that you haven't been able to do. Why is that?
Mon, I know it's embarrassing, Murray. Just imagine how everyone who voted for the Labor Party at the last election feels. It wasn't just once, it was 50 separate times. And, you know, I think what Australians are wanting to see is a party that's serious about actually delivering on the challenges that households are facing right now, that makes a difference to people's lives. And it is about lowering taxes. It's who's going to actually have a serious plan to cut government spending. I didn't interrupt you, Murray. I'd appreciate the same courtesy. You know, who has a serious plan to cut government spending, to put downward pressure on inflation that's hurting everyone. How are they going to access aged care? I mean, this is the stuff that's going to make a difference to people's lives. It's a challenge, and it takes a serious suite of policies to actually make that difference. That's the decision Australians are making at the next election.
Okay. You just said then how embarrassing it must be for the Australians that voted for Labor, but isn't it embarrassing for the coalition that it's taken Pauline Hanson to call out Labor on this lie, that no one's listening to the coalition, and the numbers in the polls are showing that?
Well, Mon, you know, it remains to be seen how Australians feel about watching political ads during, you know, State of Origin. Go Maroons. I think Murray and I are actually on a unity ticket on that one.
I got the tie on today.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend when it comes to State of Origin as a Victorian. But I think Australians are rightfully frustrated. And I think you know, I've been on this program every week, Mon, calling out the lies that the Prime Minister has told, particularly on taxing Australians. And Murray talks a big game on tax cuts. It's $250 next year. We're wanting to make sure Australians get tax cuts each and every year by addressing bracket creep. So it is about competing visions for how to make people's lives actually better. Okay. That's what we need to be talking about, because people are frustrated. Yep. We're talking about the politics, too cute by half. What are we going to do?
Yeah, OK. Well, one of the things has been the fuel excise, which I think everyone will agree has helped a lot of people out there, and it's kept prices down with food supplies and so on as well. Now, petrol industry bosses, Murray, are warning of a rush on servos unless that full fuel tax rate is phased back in gradually. We know you're still deciding. We may hear next week what you're going to do with that fuel excise. But, you know, what do you do here? Are you considering a staggered approach?
Well, as we've said, Mon, you know, we will be making a decision about this in the next few days. There's no doubt that the halving of the fuel excise rate that our government provided has really assisted Australians in these times when we've seen those escalated prices. But we always said that it was going to be a temporary change. That does come at a cost to the budget to continue that, but we'll consider that going forward. You know, I did see last night on another network, Matt Canavan, the leader of the Nationals, saying that the excise reduction should end. So I guess that's the position of the coalition. We will make a decision about this because we know that we've got to keep doing everything we can to assist Australians with their cost of living pressures. You know, that has really helped, but so are the tax cuts that we're trying to provide now.
Okay.
So the tax cuts that we provided at the last election and were opposed by the Liberals, Nationals and One Nation.
Look, we are out of time, Bridget. Just very quickly, do you agree with Matt Canavan? Should the excise end, or are you for it continuing?
Well, the problem... Well, Mon, no one wants to see petrol prices and diesel prices over $2, and it's going to take months for the supply chain to get back to normal. What Murray hasn't said is when the Liberal and the National Party called for the reduction in the fuel tax, we also asked for the $2.5 billion to be offset in the budget to stop inflationary impacts. Now we're seeing that be a live discussion, driving up the cost of groceries, of your gym gear, everything that arrives on the back of the trucks. So the trucking industry has put a sensible suggestion on the table, and the government should look at it.
Yeah,
because
that's
they
that heavy
didn't
vehicle
make
tax
the
to put some
economically
release
responsible
on.
decision to put the offset in place.
on
Instead,
heavy
that drives
vehicles.
up inflation.
Yep. All right. Listen, thank you both. Enjoy the game tonight. I'm sure you will.
Shall do. Go Queensland.
Thanks, Murray.